All right, 1, 2, 3, action. Hey everybody, I just finished an exam, so I figured let's make a video. Today I wanted to talk about how I spent my gap years. So I graduated college. I decided I needed a year after college to get ready for an application. I realized that after my first application, I wasn't getting accepted in med school, so in preparation for my second cycle, I had 2 more years to do some stuff. So 1 plus 2 is 3. I had 3 gap years, and today I'm going to talk about what I did during those 3 gap years. I want to talk about the reasons I chose to do those things and why a person wouldn't do those things. Again, everyone who has to do a gap year or wants to do a gap year, they can spend that time doing whatever they want. You don't have to do anything that I did, but I just want to go through the decisions that I made. Maybe they can influence you, or maybe you realize those aren't what I want to do, and realize that if you want to do something else, go ahead and do it. It's your life, it's your gap year, make the best out of it, because med school, I'm only 3 months in med school, I think, and it is rough. So enjoy your life while you can. Not that you're not going to enjoy med school, but if there's anything you want to explore, feel free to do it during your gap years. I encourage you to do so. So first I'm going to talk about some of the boring things that I did. So first I want to talk about some of the things that I did that maybe a basic pre-med student or someone who's actively trying to work on their med school application, some of the things that they would do. And I'm also going to talk about some of the fun creative stuff that I did. I think it's helpful to show balance, and that's exactly what I did because I had interests in a lot of things and I had time to explore it. I had 3 years. So whether you're doing 1, 2, 7, 10 gap years, I hope this helps. So first I wanted to make sure I would do something that had income, so I worked a job. My first gap year I worked full-time as a clinical research associate. I wanted to do that because I had a background in biology and I wanted to have face-to-face interactions with patients, and I also wanted to build my critical thinking skills and see if research is something that I can continue in medical school and in my future career as a physician. And so I went into clinical research. I was able to work in a Parkinson's disease study. I worked with patients, I worked with people, in between entering data and all the desk stuff. I also had an opportunity to talk to these patients and, talk to participants. But in addition to doing all of the desk work and all the paperwork and all the coordination, I spent a lot of time talking to research participants, asking them questions, having them fill out questionnaires. And that was my interaction with them. And, Parkinson's disease is a really difficult disease. And even though they're voluntarily participating in this research, it was important for me to kind of get a handle of what they were dealing with and how to talk to someone who's going through a chronic illness or a really tough time. And so that helped build my communication skills and patient-facing interactions. During that time, I did also get a lot of mentorship from my principal investigator, which is your boss in a research study. She was absolutely amazing, and in addition to doing amazing research, I also got to watch her supervise several teams, and she was just an absolute wonderful teacher. Anytime I had a question, she explained things super well, super patient. And when you're looking for a job, when you're looking for anything, I think the best thing you can do is find a really good mentor, someone who's willing to teach, take a second, sit you down, let you know what you're doing right, and also the things that you're doing wrong. And she was absolutely amazing and an incredible resource for me. So I got a job so that I could save some money because I knew med school was expensive. And to help save money, I actually spent my gap years living at home with my parents. And I know that's not the most attractive idea. I know a lot of people want to steer clear from home because, whatever reason. But I knew that there was a good chance that when I went to med school, it was going to be outside of my hometown, going to be away from Atlanta and away from my parents. So I thought, in addition to saving money, it would be a good opportunity for me to spend some time with my family before going off into med school. So I stayed at home so that I could save money, but I ended up not saving that much because I also decided to get an MPH, or a Master of Public Health degree. And I chose that for many reasons. One, I realized I did want to go back to school. I knew I wanted to go back to school. I wasn't really in the mindset of, working that 9 to 5 yet. And I thought going back to school would be a great way to kind of train my brain, kind of get it ready for med school. But I didn't know exactly what I wanted to study yet. And, it was around the time where I realized it was my first med school application. I wasn't getting in anywhere. And I realized, okay, let's dial it back. Let's see, why'd you want to go into medicine in the first place? And, I did a lot of introspection, and in addition to being a really good clinician, another motivation for me to go into medicine was to help the underserved. And, somewhere along my pre-med experiences, I kind of lost that. And I realized if I wanted to make big change, I had to understand the system that healthcare exists in. And so I decided to study public health, which is the study of the promotion and protection of the health of individuals and their communities, which is exactly what I wanted to study. And so public health has many different tracks. Some people like to do the global health track, epidemiology, biostatistics, child and maternal health. Depending on what school you get your degree in, there's going to be different tracks. I studied health policy and management because I realized I didn't really understand how insurance systems work, how healthcare laws are made, how physicians and other providers fit into a healthcare team and what their responsibility is outside of just seeing patients. And I also chose that because it was the program where they taught you management skills, how to run a team, how to keep a hospital or a clinic running, and that's the management side. So policy management, making laws, making policies, making rules, and how to implement all of that. Those are things that are really interesting to me. And again, going back to that mentor I had during my research job, she was an amazing supervisor, amazing manager, and I kind of wanted to emulate that, and I figured this track in public health would kind of build my skills and help me do so. And so I did a full-time master's degree while still working part-time at the research job. So year one, again, full-time research, 40 hours a week. Years 2 and 3 were split between completing that MPH and still working in clinical research and still getting that face-to-face experience with patients. So around that time, I was figuring out that underserved communities was something that I wanted to involve myself in helping and dealing with. I started volunteering again and going back to my hometown and found a free clinic where they treated refugees and immigrants and other low-income individuals in the community. And I had a pretty easy job there. I would come in once a month or every 2 weeks. And so my job was to stand in front of a whiteboard and keep track of all the patients and making sure that they were checked in, making sure that they saw the provider, making sure that they got their medications, making sure that they got their labs. And in between that, I'm looking at their records, drawing the records and putting them back and filing it. It's very basic stuff you do in a volunteer environment. But that place is also awesome because they let you shadow if there's enough volunteers that they don't need all the volunteers working at the same time. So, helping the underserved, volunteering, and getting clinical experience. 3 birds, 1 stone, right? So that was efficient, but just an absolutely wonderful and, continuously humbling experience. Working in a free clinic, just seeing, what kind of sicknesses are issues in this community, and also seeing why they're not having adequate access to care. All feeding into my experiences in my MPH, and I'm taking all these in as I'm going to med school and trying to figure out what kind of doctor I want to be. So research, getting a master's degree, and continuing to volunteer. Those are very basic tenets in a med school application. Those are some of the stuff I spent a lot of time in during my gap years. But I want to talk about some of the fun stuff I did too. And a lot of that was more artsy, creative stuff. And during my gap years, when I had free time, I spent a lot of time painting, which was great for stress relief and just really igniting that, artistic part of your brain. And so painting, I got into digital illustration. I eventually started meeting artists around town, meeting with them once a month, exchanging art supplies, ideas, stickers even. Eventually I got to meet some people and help them with doing murals. I sold some paintings at a fundraiser to help raise money for a playground that was being built. All super fun stuff. I also got to do some work in film. In addition to being an extra on some TV shows, I was also a production assistant for some short films and some student projects. And so that was super fun. You know, it didn't get me famous, but it was just really interesting to work in that team and, you know, again, just using that creative energy and just learning a lot. Got to meet celebrities, got to see how it is on set, you know, with the director, production assistants, with grip, all the different people. And so it was really fun seeing how a director works with the cinematographer, with the ACs, the PAs, the G&E team. Anyway, those are the things that I did during my gap years. Again, I did the research and the volunteering and getting a Master of Public Health degree. All those really helped me in my application, but I think you can literally do anything as long as you're getting good experience and you're also developing yourself as a person. I know a ton of people who did not do research, a ton of people who did not get a master's degree, and you know, maybe they were volunteering, I'm not sure. But a lot of people who didn't do the same experience as I did, and they're still my classmates, and they're still in medicine. Some people worked in insurance companies, some people worked in consulting, some people got other degrees, some people came straight out of college. So it's a big range. I don't think those are what's going to make or break your application, whether or not you did these specific things, but whether or not you're prepared to go into medical school. And hopefully everything you're doing is preparing you for that. But again, it doesn't have to be these directly medically, clinically related experiences, because I spent a lot of my time in my interviews talking not just about those other things, but also how I painted and how I was contributing to fundraisers with my paintings, and how I was working on teams not just in clinical or research care, but also in these production assistant roles that I had, working on teams and just working on different kinds of teams and being able to work with different kinds of people. I think that's what made me stand out as an applicant. I think these are things that can make you stand out as an applicant. And if you're taking some gap years, I really encourage you to really use that time to explore who you are, whatever that means. And, you know, just really making the best of that time, because you're not going to get that back. Anyway, I think I'm going to break those different topics down a little bit more in subsequent videos, but that was just an overview of the stuff that I did during my gap years. Hopefully this is helpful. Please, you know, feel free to ask any questions about any of those experiences. And yeah, signing off, this is Tony Chang, MS1.